This is Legal Edge 6. Get ready to immerse yourself in real-world law enforcement challenges and evidence-based solutions. You belong here, the command center where instructors and supervisors turn the page to expert insights that drive trust and performance in the organizational culture.
The next voice you will hear is fearless and focused, holding you up to your greatness, not your limitations. The mindset shift begins right now.
Welcome to the second episode in the Command Center of Legal Ed 6. I am your host, Charles Rambo. Today we're living in a new era of crime, and let me make it very plain. It's criminal activity on a 5G network. We're talking about criminal actors executing multiple blatant offenses like they have their own HR and legal departments, guiding them on how to commit crime while flying under the radar of detection, arrest, and prosecution. And when they do get arrested, guess what? They're not being disrupted. They are being recruited in global detention centers that lack penological order and discipline. It's almost like the NFL draft meets prison break. And watch this. They are often supported by malign influences within inside of your agencies.
To the last point that you made, and I'll end my testimony, is that when you look at the type of employees that are hired nowadays, the popular term on the international scene, again, I'm trained by the Department of Homeland Security as an intelligence analyst. And one of the key concerns we have now is malign influences. We're not just talking about malign influences that come from international theaters. We're talking about domestic malign influences that are intentionally getting into sheriff's offices, correctional facilities, as well as police departments to be the inside source that will give back information and otherwise there to try to disrupt constitutional governance in order to be able to take over conditions to make it to seem as if they are the insurgents, to make it look like we're in charge and we're going to challenge constituted government. So we have to be very meticulous and careful about who we're hiring nowadays. Be ye male, female, doesn't make a difference. We've got to be able to get into some more robust ways of getting qualified staff that can apply. And as you know, that's like pulling a needle out of a haystack.
Well, would you not agree that the Marine Corps does a really good job with it by not lowering their standards and continuing to raise their standards, even though they may be undermanned, if you will, for lack of a better term, that and what we found in many law enforcement agencies post-COVID is that a lowering of the standards where behavior that is currently accepted was not accepted when I was hired in 85 and you came on, that we were held to a higher standard. And I worked in groups where we were subject to polygraph examinations at the whim of a supervisor or drug tests at the whim of a supervisor in order to maintain the integrity of the unit. Do you feel that raising the standards for law enforcement today would be a step in the right direction to prevent this infiltration that you speak of?
Well, you said it very correctly when you identified the Marines. That's why they call themselves the few and the proud.
Yes, sir.
They're not necessarily after every one. But I have to also go to my branch of service, Air Force. We aim high. We want to make sure that we're getting the most qualified. So as you said, you cannot lower the standard, but you can do a lot. And I'm a great fan of the SEAL team that otherwise uses a very small contingency to get the job done no matter where they're sent.
Thank you, Mr. Rambo. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Does any committee members have any questions? Okay, if not, Mr. Rambo, I do appreciate your time, and thank you for coming today.
Thank you.
So don't be offended, please, my colleagues, when I ask the objective, reasonable question in my former Compstat commander voice. Why aren't nationwide municipal policing agencies who patrol communities, county sheriffs who run the jails, and investigators from prosecutor offices not operating and executing on the same tactical intelligence? From the rapid increase in crime to out-of-control jails, that's what happens when egos get bigger than the crime rates. In tonight's episode, we turn to a proven system to fight crime in the 21st century with a greater level of trust, resilience, and agency performance. We're talking about Compstat, When done right, it's the surgical blade of real-time intelligence that cuts through the half-truths and total nonsense about agency performance. But when done wrong, it's a house divided against one another, like divorced parents who only communicate through their children. Let me give respect to where it's due. Many agencies have adopted Compstat with varying levels of success. But it started with Jack Maple, a visionary cop who rose from the New York Transit Police Department to Deputy Commissioner of the NYPD. And yes, tonight, not only am I defending Maple's legacy, I'm also defending his system. Because I want you to think about it, that while a $3 million fusion center is ideal, don't forget that this visionary, while sitting at a bar, scribbled on a free napkin what would become the four most profound pillars of fighting crime: timely and accurate intelligence, rapid deployment of manpower, effective allocation of resources, and most important, the one that everyone gets intimidated by, is relentless follow-up. These were the time-tested principles that Jack Maple used with simple pushpins and maps in predicting crime trends in what he called charts of the future, a concept that today still holds power. Even the Harvard Kennedy School of Government recognized Compstat as an Innovation in Government Award. And I believe right now, based upon this accomplishment, Maple is calling you to do something more with this field of knowledge, a call to action into something that is in you, expert authority. More than just having a title or years of service. It's your crystallized intelligence, deeply embedded knowledge, paired in the brain with, get this, cognitive mastery to make strategic high-stakes decisions under pressure. So in respect to the late Jack Maple, if his spirit were to visit your $3 million fusion center during a control meeting, would he be proud of the renewed mindset behind how you present the numbers with facts? Or would the laser pointer in your hand mysteriously stop working with the projector being flung across the room? I want to give you the battle scars on why I have developed this professional manual and training on Compstat Analytics. In 2009, I was brought in during one of the most critical points in Fulton County's history to help lead the Embattled County Jail from up under one of the most aggressive federal consent decree orders.
With inside of this, I just want to give a little small context. And what I can appreciate about this is that we used to have Compstat sessions that I implemented in 2009 that helped get us from up under a federal consent decree. And just like here, we have a podium and we have a panel, and we ask the crucial questions for evidence-based management of what was going on up on those floors. We held commanders 100% accountable for knowing about the day-to-day operations, everything from locks to mechanical failures to inmate behaviors, gang awareness. All of these were things that I put into place in 2009, as you will see here on the side note of the addendum. You will see the Compstat program that was put into place that led to 95% or better 95% or better compliance ratings with the federal consent decree that ended it ultimately in 2015. You will also see that I had implemented a procedure, and it's post-approved, called correctional intelligence, where we partnered with our federal, state, and local gang investigators. And not only were we able to curb violence and contraband inside of the jail, we were also able to help them to assist in solving crimes out inside of the community based upon our internal intelligence network. That's why in our Compstat, and I heard another senator talk about KPIs, key performance indicators, I developed what was called a balanced scorecard, a Kaplan-based scorecard that was recommended by the Harvard Kennedy School of Government when you do Compstat-style analysis.
I just want to be really clear. I know you keep using the word Compstat.
Yes.
And I had the opportunity years ago to visit the New York City Police Department and look at their Compstat system that I think was probably initiated by Bill Bratton when he was there. And basically what it is it's intelligence-based policing.
Correct.
It's in order to gather intel to try to determine where the hot spots are, where to move your resources. And so I think what you're saying, and please correct me if I'm wrong, is basically inside of our county jails to look at issues within the county jail that, whether it's gang violence or whatever, maybe a similar type intel gathering process. So, and that goes beyond the typical classification because, as you are aware,
With little to no budget, I built our Compstat unit from scratch, from training to audit teams, balanced scorecards, and co-chairing control meetings. In the rollout phase, of course, resistance was very fierce. Not because the system was not working, but it required supervisors to now be in control about day-to-day operations. No hiding behind reports, no excuses. You had to demonstrate at the podium what you were doing in 15 areas of federal compliance. And watch this, colleagues. Within 6 months of being only in the pilot phase, the federal monitor was now reporting 90% or better compliance ratings back to the federal judge. So imagine how much more exceedingly and abundantly things could have been done better with full staff compliance. What we built worked, but what shocked me years later was why it worked. We were not acting like narcissistic leaders who get an arousal out of cursing out or berating supervisors if they did not have verifiable answers when they stood at the podium. So as I said earlier, this is an example of how when Compstat is done wrong, it doesn't just miss the mark. It becomes a house divided where command staff turn on each other. Facts are drowned out in egos and accountability is lost in the translation. But here's the flip side. What if you stepped outside the war over who's right and tapped into your expert authority, that which is rooted in the crystallized intelligence, the authority that does not argue? It controls the facts. It shuts down the noise before the nonsense even starts. It proves without flexing that you're not just in the room, you're running the table. So, continuing my narrative, here is the breakdown of how neuroscience-based leadership fused with Compstat precision can help flip your organizational culture with a greater level of trust and performance. Without even knowing it, from preparing the balanced scorecards to presentations at the podium, we were tapping again into crystallized intelligence, that body of knowledge an instinct that held managers up to their greatness and not their limitations in managing a unit. But here was the chart of the future irony of what we were doing. I was selected along with the chief jailer to attend the intelligence analyst course taught by the United States Department of Homeland Security at FLETC, one of the toughest intelligence programs in the nation. This wasn't a death by PowerPoint course with a continental breakfast and early dismissals. It was 2 weeks of the most intense training that I had ever attended among heavy-hitting agents from the federal sector. And no, you did not pass this course with a final written exam. You had to stand before a panel of seasoned evaluators like Raymond Reddington's and present an intelligence model that would work in the real world. A group so intense looking, like, why are you standing there presenting with a bandage over your war wounds and no results? Using what I learned in the course about the Associated Analysis Network, it was only a natural fit for what we were already doing in our Compstat model. Imagine that, seeing that what we were doing, flipping the jail in what the monitor described to the federal judge as steps in the right direction towards compliance. This wasn't just a win for me, it was the personification of being in the right place at the right time with the right skills to gain an organizational transformation that coincided with a new generation of criminal justice leaders that were coming into our agency for them to learn how to master real accountability with real data that could work at any level of the agency. And the results spoke for themselves. Global delegations and grand juries visited the jail impressed with the transformations. A&E even felt more confident and comfortable to come back and film Beyond Scared Straight inside the facility. The National Institute of Corrections scheduled an invitation for me to come and present strategies to other major county sheriffs. Law and Order covered our transformations, and by 2016, the jail was released from federal oversight. Most importantly, the Associated Analysis Network became a tool that helped our federal, state, and local partners reduce crime outside the walls. These were now agencies not working in silos. They were now in alignment with real-time intelligence with our sheriff's office to get things done. 3 thoughts and 3 steps ahead of the threat.
Smash and grab thieves have targeted yet another CVS store with video appearing to show them trying to steal an ATM. This latest incident happening early this morning in DeKalb County. So here's a closer look at where it happened on Lawrenceville Highway. And that's where we find 11 Alive's Bo Beth Yates for us live this evening.
So, Bo Beth, what are police saying about this latest break-in?
Well, Ron and Jennifer, they're saying they're investigating, trying to figure out who's responsible for this. Now, take a look behind you. You can see crews working right now trying to repair the damage caused when a truck rammed the front of that CVS.
Makes me a little bit more fearful. Like I said, this is a very safe area.
DeKalb County residents who frequent the CVS on Lawrenceville Highway are reacting to the overnight break-in at their pharmacy. In this surveillance video, you see a box truck ram the front of the store several times. Then, through the dust of the damage, you can see what appears to be 3 individuals attempting to drag an ATM out of the store and into their truck.
Really shocking because this is a fairly safe area, and the fact that the ATM was it's a little bit further in, that was probably a hard reach for them to try to do that.
But this isn't the first time thieves have targeted a CVS with a truck. Atlanta Police Department is investigating a similar incident that occurred last week, where thieves again drove a box truck into the front of a CVS on Cascade Road. Then, back on July 10th, around 3 a.m., Cobb County Police says their officers responded to the CVS on the 2000 block of Powers Ferry Road, where multiple suspects attempted to remove an ATM inside the store and again used a box truck to ram and destroy the front entrance.
It could be copycats, but from my intelligence experience, it very well could be coming from the same enterprise because of, again, you look at the times that these crimes are being committed, the pattern of how they're using other type of equipment.
Charles Rambo, a retired Fulton County Sheriff Lieutenant, trained in intelligence analysis, says with similar CVS smash and grabs happening in multiple jurisdictions, it's likely law enforcement agencies from the different areas will work together. He says the joint effort will be critical in solving and preventing similar burglaries.
You can expect to see more incidents based upon how well law enforcement, again, responds. That's why we need a hybrid-based tactical and intelligence network that can work across jurisdictional lines and impact these upon immediate notification.
Even the most notorious inmates were spreading from the correctional facilities to across communities. You cannot operate in this county jail like we used to. That wasn't magic. It was the wiring and firing of expert knowledge and crystallized intelligence that was outperforming the traditions of doing just enough to get by. I conclude tonight's podcast on a tough love call to action. Why? Because today too many agencies tolerate dysfunction and incompetence like it's part of a benefits package towards retirement. Your agency still confuses PowerPoint for performance and the data dazzles, but your teams are lackluster in the field. You don't need another meeting. What you need is a radical shift in trust, leadership, and real-world performance, and you need it right now. That's what this offering Compstat Analytics in eliminating half-truths and total nonsense delivers. It's not just a manual, it's a mirror. And if you're brave enough to look into it very deeply after reading this manual, you'll find not only your crystallized intelligence, but your expert authority, the leader who should be in charge of change. That's why today on this podcast, I'm handing you the Compstat Analytics manual completely free. No strings, no sales pitches. Just scan the QR code, download your blueprint, and start holding your agency to a higher level of accountability. And when you are ready to go further, please feel free to enroll in our accredited 4-hour Compstat online course at criminaljusticelearning.online. Join me next week in episode 3 for our law enforcement-based approach and how to develop an action plan with specific focus on developing key performance indicators that drive a new level of trust in your agency mission. fearless and focused on evidence-based results. I am Charles Rambo, and I'll see you next episode in the Command Center.